Tachawang Sanghao, Wanakkam. My Mandarin and Chinese is slightly better than YB Siva because he only says Tachawang Sanghao. I know another word which is new, lembu. Anyhow, friends, thank you very much for coming tonight. I don't have much time, maybe I only have about 25 minutes. So if I could ask you to spare 25 minutes to hear some stories. Some are old, some are new. Let me start by telling my own story before we go into the election. Hong Kong, hammer, cows, those can come later. But I want to start by telling that I'm a Malay born in a very rural family. I come from a very poor Malay family. Both my parents don't go to school, only go up to standard 6. Until today, they cannot speak a single word of English. I fit exactly the kind of Malay, rural Malay, that UMNO think will forever send them to Putrajaya. If you look at my family, it's the kind of Malay family that UMNO thinks it is this kind of Malay family that will prop up them forever in Putrajaya. But I have been in PKR, in Keadilan since day one when I was still in university. And there's a very big reason for that. It's because I cannot stomach. Morally, it is wrong to support a racist party that encourage certain section of our society to get rich, to be well off, but at the expense of other people. I go to universities and I have friends from Chinese, Indian, Malay. All of us in my generation share this mutual feeling that it is morally wrong that you can progress and prosper and get rich as a Malay, but at the expense when other Chinese, Indians and even other Malays don't get the same opportunity that you do. That's why I am in PKR and I'm not in UMNO or in all other party, because I think it is incumbent upon all of us, not just for the moral reason, but also because the country, if we were to go forward, we need to make sure that our society is built on the foundation of justice and merits, so that only the clever and the hard-working ones, no matter whether they are Malay, Chinese, Indian, Iban, Kadazan, go forward. Not because, and certainly not because they are anak menteri and therefore they can get rich. So that's I think it's very important to set out. That's why I know that a lot of us, especially in urban area, sometimes we feel disheartened. We are worried that our rural friends will not see this argument. But don't worry. As I say, that my family is your hardcore, typical Malay, poor, rural from Terengganu. But if my family have been supportive of keadilan and reformasi from day one in this election, I think it is very wrong for UMNO to think that they can rely on the Malay votes in the rural area. Because even if their parents do not read Malaysia Kini, even if some of the elder generation only rely on utusan, but there are thousands and thousands of young people like me who will go back to rural areas and make sure our parents change the government this time around. Okay. I mean, I don't join PKR just for that lah. There are reasons why a lot of us subscribe to what PKR and Pakatan stand for. I mean, you look at 50 years, 55 years of Barisan Nasional's track record. There are two reasons why people usually support a party in the government. Number one, because that government provides opportunity. Number two, because that government usually solves your problem. In both accounts, UMNO Barisan Nasional has failed miserably for the last 55 years. That's why if you look at today's problem, you go and ask anak-anak muda, especially the younger ones, they can't afford decent housing. They can't afford decent cars. They don't even get opportunity, and getting jobs is very difficult. If you go and ask UMNO Barisan Nasional, kalau tanya kenapa harga kereta mahal, Malaysia is the only country in the world that levy 100% tax on each single one car that we buy. If you go and ask Barisan Nasional, why can't we reduce the excise duty because it is a heavy burden on the public, UMNO will say, because the country will go bankrupt. It will give excuse, alasan. And then you go and ask UMNO again, fuel is a main component in our daily expense. Fuel causes the cost of daily goods to rise every month, every year. As a country that produces the top-notch quality of crude oil that fetches the highest price in the world, why can't we use some of our oil revenue to reduce the price of the fuel at the pump so that we will lessen the burden of the public? You ask that to UMNO, UMNO will say, oh, ini akan bankruptkan negara, we cannot do it. So if you are in my shoes and you ask every single one of your children of our generation, there is no reason whatsoever to vote for UMNO and Barisan Nasional because they can't solve our problem. The only thing that they can give is alasan, 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 more and more excuses. That's why nowadays I suggest to Najib, you change nama Barisan Nasional lah. No longer Barisan Nasional, you tukar jadi Alasan Nasional. Everything about Barisan Nasional is all alasan. And the reason why they can't do this is because after 55 years of being in government, the only thing that UMNO Barisan Nasional knows to do is to rob and rompak and take more and more public money. That's why a country as rich as Malaysia finally ends up as one of the struggling societies in Southeast Asia. Indonesia is fast leaving us. Thailand is at par with us. Myanmar is catching up with us. I used to go in and out of Myanmar. In the 1960s, Burma and Rangoon was at par with Kuala Lumpur. In fact, it was better because of the British legacy. Because they choose the wrong government and the wrong political system, last 10 years, if you go to Myanmar, if you go to Yangon, it's 20, 30, 40 years behind. But if we don't change the government today, I bet you, at the time when my age, macam YB Siva, our friends from Myanmar comes and they say, Yangon now is a lot more prosperous than maybe Kuala Lumpur. That's why, my friend, we can't run away from one important facet, one important decision that we have to make in this election. You can listen to all sorts of excuses that Barisan wants to give, but I only ask you one request. In this election, please vote for a clean politician. Politician yang tidak makan rasuah dan tidak makan duit rakyat. Can you do that? Because I've spent the last 1.5 years mengintip, mengendap, and surveying this politician. We've started with Sharizad Jalil. You know, I was in Australia about 2 months back. When I was in Australia, we met some students. We also met interested Australians who would like to find further information about our cattle industry. Because they heard in Australia that Malaysia was embarking in a big way to rival Australia to produce farm products, to produce cattle products. So they were asking me, how big was the farm? How serious was Malaysian authority? How many farms, acres of land? So I told them, I check up. You see, there was not much different. Because if you travel from Sydney on the way to Canberra, you will pass through hundreds and thousands acres of land that were converted to become cattle farm. From one farm to another, from a beginning to the end, is about thousands of acres. You will take at least 1 hour to cover a farm from one end to another. I said it's not different. Even in Malaysia, we are doing exactly that. We have one farm called NFC. It's about 5,000 acres. If you go from one end of NFC to the other end, from the first gate to the last gate, and I did that myself, if you drive, it will take almost 1 hour from one end to another, and to go back another 1 hour. So Australians were a bit taken aback. They felt that, oh, well, this is quite bad. I mean, they are really serious about challenging us in cattle industry. But I said, hang on, don't worry. Because in Australia, if you drive from one end to another for 1 hour, all you see from your car is hundreds and thousands of cattle, of lambs, of lembu, of cows. Semua you nampak from one end to another. If you go to Malaysian farm, although it is 5,000 acres, and I did count myself from one end to another, after doing 2-3 recounts, you will only find 4 lembu. Don't worry. So, you know, the Australians were quite happy with that. They know that we are not serious about challenging them in terms of cow.